Welcome to Le Foot, your podcast about French football, where it will be all about finals today. First, we look at the fiery Friday evening in Paris between Lens and Nice, where Lens took a historic first Coupe de France title. After that, well, we will look ahead towards Budapest and PSG Arsenal, who will battle it out on the biggest stage of them all. On y va.
We go right into Coupe de France final, and I guess we have to congratulate Lens here.
For sure.
They win 3-1. Solid victory. Although I mean Nice had some very good chances there. What did you think about the game, Jeff?
No, I mean, just first of all, as you said there, congratulations to Lens. I think now when they're closing the books of this season, you know, not reaching the full way in the league, but now grabbing a title and their first Coupe de France title in their history, I think, you know, Paul Surgeon and the boys can be proud of what they've accomplished throughout the entire year. And yeah, the game was tight. There was some moments throughout the game that could have made the result end up differently, but I think looking at the whole game, Lens was a worthy victory.
Yeah, I mean, I agree there that it was going both ways. In this match, we talked about it beforehand. We could only see it going one way, but it felt like when Thauvin scores the first goal that, I mean, 25 minutes in, you start feeling it looks like Lens' evening, and that didn't change when Edouard bombs the header in for 2-0 right before halftime. But then, kind of out of nowhere, we have Koulibaly, the youngster, heading in a corner and reducing right before the halftime whistle. And that, for me, changed the feel a bit for the match. It felt even, and now I felt like something big could happen here, even for Nice, because I think they didn't perform as bad as we've seen them done in the league. They came motivated.
Yeah, they came with full force, and they really wanted this. I mean, it's the finals, obviously they do, but for me, even though Nice had moments to get back into the game, like looking at their players, they don't have any top players as Lens have. So, you know, it's always going to be hard for them to produce the amount of goals Lens did. I mean, just take like they have Wahi on top compared to Edouard. They don't have a Thauvin. He's been great. You know, they don't have those key players, and those are the players that really stepped up for Lens here in the final, whereas Nice does not really have them.
No, and I think I agree there that it's the key players' performance that does it here for Nice. You have Thauvin and you have Edouard and even Sima pulling it home for 3-1. But there is one moment as well in the first half when Lens scores 1-0 from Thauvin. I think there is poor defending from Boadouy. He hesitates. And in a final, you have to go 110% into every duel. Thauvin can take the ball instead of it being a clearance. And I just think that's it's a bit telling for the season that Nice has had. I mean, on the biggest of stages in domestic French football, and you hesitate in a duel towards a top player like Thauvin. It was a bit telling, and I mean, seeing it there, watching the match, I felt frustrated. I can't imagine how the manager feels, Puel, because that kind of, from a defensive midfielder, it needs to be a tackle. You need to make a stop. It looks like he will be the first one to reach the ball. He hesitates. Thauvin takes it and scores. I don't want to take anything away from Thauvin there, but not a great segment. And of course, I mean, the 2-0, I don't want to talk too much about, but then Sima for the 3-1 goal, I think there as well, it's not optimal, the defending.
No, we see Dante there just heading the ball back, and I think there are major errors made by the Nice defense there in a row. It's a sequence of very clumsy gameplay.
Yeah,
really.
and I think on the topic of Dante, he did not have a good performance at all at Stade de France this Friday evening. And
that's a shame. He has a nice career behind him.
But he's 42 years old. And
yeah.
With Nice might getting relegated, we'll see how the back-to-back games against Saint-Étienne will be.
Yeah.
He might be thinking about,
it's
stepping
done.
out of this game.
But
leaving the game before the
mean,
game leaves.
But it has been communicated that he is not continuing with football after this.
Yeah.
So I sat and I watched that this is Dante's final game in the career, final match. I thought about it plenty of times during this match. But then I actually realized they need to play to not be relegated twice against Saint-Étienne. I mean, I was so into the final years thinking this is Dante's final moments as a football player. But there is some time left, even though it won't be maybe the nicest.
Yeah. Do you really think? I mean, he's probably going to play, but given this performance and I mean,
against Saint-Étienne there.
Will they play someone else there in the defense? Is this maybe his last game actually?
It could be, and then it's a shame. I mean, this player has won the Champions League with Bayern München. He's been on the biggest of stages in world football, been in the Brazilian national team, and this kind of performance in Coupe de France final, I think it's a bit of a shame.
From one important game to another. Let's now moving focus from the League Cup final against Lens to the battle of who's staying in Ligue 1 against Saint-Étienne, starting first game away. What do we think, boys? What are the chances of Nice staying up and perhaps Saint-Étienne taking their place instead?
I think a lot of experts in France seems to be thinking of this going into Saint-Étienne's favor ahead of this match. And of course, we've talked a bit about it, that mentality-wise they could have a plus, but I think it's going to be super even. I think football-wise, you could even argue that Nice has the upper hand, having played in Liga with that kind of quality player. I also want to call out that Leslie Boitrel and Thibaut Leroll at Ligue 1 Plus are the only experts there that believe in Nice managing this, and that's quite striking because I always think first division team should have the upper hand on the second division team. But it's going to be even matches. I think there are also going to be a lot of tension with the supporters, which I look forward to see. Of course, it will mean a lot both for Saint-Étienne to be back, but I've also seen now that the 5 last matches between the two have ended in Nice winning, and a few matches ago between these two clubs it ended 8-0, and that was in 2024 if I don't remember wrong. And
but do you guys think that one of the reasons because of one of the rationales because of the experts, most of them believe that Saint-Étienne is gonna go up, like is one of the reasons for them thinking so, and other people as well, because the poor performance Nice have put up recently in Liga, getting to this game and also losing the final a few days before this. Do you think like that's an important part to consider when these guys are playing each other?
I think so. I think the form is horrible, even though Saint-Étienne didn't end the Ligue 2 with the best of grace. But I think the form Nice has had, the loss against Auxerre specifically, when they lost the momentum in the league to go on into the relegation spot, was terrible. And not managing to win against Metz at home, it must account for something. But it will be even. I find it a little bit tricky. Do you think we're gonna see Saint-Étienne or Nice, Dennis?
I think we're going to see Saint-Étienne in Liga next season. Just as you say, they've had some poor performances here towards the end of the season, Nice. So, and I mean, they had it in the bag, basically, Nice. If they would have just basically drawn or won against Auxerre. But for them to lose against Auxerre, that I don't know.
And key factor also that Wahi is suspended after yellow cards in the league in the first leg now, and that's such a blow. I mean, he's been really good for Nice this season. But I also want to just call out that Stassen, the Belgian, up top for Saint-Étienne, as well as Davitashvili, the Georgian, are two players to look out for because they've been doing it for Saint-Étienne this season.
But also I think Cardona and Dufus there
Okay.
They can also put in, both goals or assists. So I think that might be also something that tilts this game to the favor of Saint-Étienne, considering they have, they played in Ligue F, but like they still have a couple of players who can produce both goals and assists, whereas I don't see the same players being able to step up for Nice with Wahi away, and also the poor defense that we've seen from Nice lately, led by Dante. So, first game at Saint-Étienne home, very important for them to grab a 2-0 or something there, which I think they're more than capable of.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I just want to mention that 8-0 loss. We actually had the goalkeeper Lars Sonner playing, as well as star player now Davitashvili and Stassen. So they have some bad memories from playing OGC Nice. But I have a question now. How much will Wahi be missed? Because it looks like it will be Kevin Carlos up top together with Shaw and Diop.
I think it will be very much so missed in the upcoming game. I have a hard time seeing Nice. Well, I mean, if they come out strong early in the game, maybe we can see something happen there for Nice. But without Wahi,
here also Wahi is one of their key players. But then there's like, okay, who's the replacement? Kevin Carlos, 0 goals, 23 games. I mean, it's not like Paris Saint-Germain, they can put in Barcola or something like that.
Yeah, no.
Maybe not the best comparison, but it's also a matter of who's replacing him. And Kevin Carlos have not been, having the best of his seasons. So definitely a big blow for Nice. But who knows? Claude Puel might have a card up his sleeve.
Yeah, and before we leave, this match is actually taking place now this evening, and then the second leg later this week. I just want to call out, we love nice names, right? And in the defense for Saint-Étienne, we have none less than Benjamin Old from New Zealand, which I think it's worth mentioning. And another one, of course, center defender in Saint-Étienne is Le Cardinal, which makes me think of a certain dad to a friend of ours. The Cardinal.
Yeah, the Cardinal.
And Le Cardinal has actually done some good matches this season. He has decent performances that's put up for Saint-Étienne.
Shout out Dave.
And just to throw it in there as well, we also have Bombito, but he's injured and won't play for Nice. So not only emotions on the stands, we have good names down on the pitch and in the injury room as well.
Okay, and to the biggest game of the year, PSG versus Arsenal in Budapest. The game will be played in just a few days. Earlier kickoff than usual. Maybe a bit of, gratitude or thank you to Mr. Trump, who knows. But before we deep dive into the game and our predictions and thoughts, I would just like to take a moment to, just go through both PSG and Arsenal's way to Budapest. The teams they played and what performances they had up until there. So I was thinking if we start off with the route of PSG, what are our thoughts?
I remember that they actually didn't do that well in the league phase and had to play in against Monaco and actually had a bit of a tough time, at least away to start versus Monaco. And Monaco made a fight of it in the second leg as well. But they made it through that. And then, if I don't remember wrongly, they headed to play Chelsea after that.
Yep.
And
with Mr. Rossinier in charge at that time.
Oh yeah,
he had a brief half an hour in the Chelsea dressing room.
It was a one-sided affair in the end.
Notes involved as well.
Notes involved. Was it 8-2 when he started sending out notes to the players? 10 minutes to go, I think it was.
That was over the both two games. So I think they were 4-0 up, 5-0 up or something. Yeah.
At Stamford Bridge, but. Yeah, Chelsea, they really won that fair and square. But I looked ahead of those matches. I thought they were gonna get a bit tougher of a matchup than what they actually got there.
I think so as well. I was not convinced beforehand that, I thought that the percentages was leaning towards Chelsea ahead of that game, but I mean, I thought Chelsea would put up more of a fight, and I always think Chelsea, are a dark horse in Champions League, and the reason why I might think so, I was just thinking about this before, is because that season when they won with Di Matteo. Everybody outcounted, no one believed in them, but they ended up winning. But no, they got completely trashed over 2 games.
Yeah, and I think Kvaratskhelia really presenting himself in both those matches. I mean, he was haunting Chelsea, and but then post that. After Chelsea, I think staying in England, right? They were playing Liverpool.
Yeah.
And that's around the time when a lot of matches were shuffled around. I think the match with Nantes was moved, so PSG had some extra resting time.
They did between the Chelsea games as well.
Between the Chelsea matches, yeah. And we remember all that discussion and how that maybe is not, from an objective point of view, a nice thing, given the competition at home in France specifically. But yeah, of course, tough opponent again. We thought ahead of that it's going to be even, but not as one-sided as the Chelsea matches. But what I take with me is the Dembele performance at Anfield, because I mean, being the goal scorer there, it is a special place in football to take his club past, and it was not that hard for them, even though it's a big club on the other side, Liverpool.
No, I would say a one-sided affair there as well, and. For me, especially I think the first game at Parc des Princes, the way PSG played was total dominance from the first minute, and Liverpool really struggled to, have any type of attacking football in those first 90 minutes. So easily breakthrough. But then, I mean, what most people think, at least the first leg was. Game of this century, I think, playing Bayern Munich.
Yes, that is by far recent memory, or even that I can think of. I think it's the World Cup final between France and Argentina that maybe had the same kind of not level of football, but it had something very, very special. I think this match was extraordinary, over 2 legs. I think. Both clubs impressed equally much in the first leg, where PSG won, but I mean 5-4, and it was just a football party. The second leg, I was actually very impressed with PSG, that they could score an early goal and then just hold it together. They showed they have different ways of playing football there.
Yeah, I completely agree, and I think Enrique really showed the full register and of his knowledge of football as a whole. Because we've seen him on the big stage now for quite a few years, going back to other top clubs that he's coached. Barcelona, used to mention another. But I mean, here scoring that first goal and then completely changing the way PSG plays, and also taking off last year's Ballon d'Or Dembele winner, and who might win it this year again in the 66th minute. I think that shows his capabilities to coach his team and the trust the players had for him as well. Over the 2 legs, I think PSG went through they were worthy to go through.
Definitely. And I mean, to sum it up then, the path that PSG has taken has not been an easy one. Heading over to Arsenal, I mean, we're going to start with them playing by Leverkusen. I mean, first of all, what do you give this take that some people have said that they've had a Europa League route to the Champions League final, giving the clubs they had to play? Do you agree? Does it look like a Europa League route rather than a Champions League route?
Yeah, that's a fair comparison, I would say.
But it's a tough Europa League route if it's a Europa League route, I feel.
Yeah, but, sure.
Of course. So we start with Leverkusen. It was quite even. First I think they drew away in Germany and then won back in London.
1-1, 2-0.
Yeah. So I think they won fairly over 2 matches, but then as a result of that, they had to play Sporting Lisbon, which was also a fairly even matchup, but on paper way easier than what you found on the PSG side. But then when you go to Atletico Madrid, what do you think? That is not an easy match, we know. They actually beat Barcelona to be there in the semi-final.
Yeah, I think Atleti had, they played well against Barcelona, and I think Atleti might be a bit of Barcelona's kryptonite because the way they play, and there was also a red card involved in that leg. And I mean, Arsenal going through with Atletico, fair and square, but I think it might have been a tougher opponent if you guys would have played Barcelona in any of those games, either in the Sporting round or in the semifinals.
And we see most of PSG's game, they have won by quite a few goals as well, whereas Arsenal has just won by 1 to 2 goals. And PSG is, of course, had this very much so tough opponents that I don't think that we would see the same outcome for Arsenal in this regard.
No, and I think one thing that you have some stats pointing into PSG's favor, but one stat that must be in Arsenal's favor is that, if I don't get it wrong now, they haven't lost once this Champions League season. So if they win the final, they could actually have gone through the Champions League without losing a single football match, which would be incredibly impressive.
What would you call them then?
Sorry?
What would you call them then?
The Harambol Gooners.
Not the Invincibles.
Oh, actually, yeah. Actually, maybe that is I didn't even think about it. It's the new level Invincibles. But I mean, this match is so interesting. I also need to mention that I have a special feeling now that PSG, I view them as quite big favorites. But now, when Arsenal actually grabbed the league title and they did it with one match in hand, I feel when I see all the pictures and the videos that this is a club beaming with confidence. And over 90 minutes, I don't view PSG as big favorites anymore. A bit favorites, definitely. They did this last year and they did a great final against Inter. But where do you stand on that? Do you want to put the big favorites on PSG? Or how do you see it?
I think I'm a bit in the favor for PSG here. I think they are just generally a better team, a better squad, and but I think maybe the playing style of Arsenal could be their kryptonite. But I don't know. I think it's very interesting. It's going to be very interesting to see this match. But I think my points goes to PSG in this one. What do you say, Jeff?
No, I agree. Percentage-wise, I would give it probably like 70-30 to PSG, and it's for a few reasons. They've also won the league some time ago, so they have the time to rest up for this game. They have the time to prepare for this game, and they might be only the second team in the modern Champions League era to win it back to back. Real did it, but they won it 3 times in a row. And with that said, I really want to point out that they've built something for a longer while than Arsenal, with also winning trophies. So yeah, advantage PSG, and also their first 11. If Hakimi, I think Hakimi is definitely going to play. All these things we hear and read about, he might not be fit. I don't believe it. So I think the first 11 of PSG is also there, and they have 2 players that I would like to point out that can really change the game. Whereas I don't see Arsenal having those quality players up front, and that's Kvaratskhelia and Dembélé, and I think those are the kind of players that wins you the big trophies, and in this case the Champions League final. So advantage PSG.
But I think here you mentioned some of the PSG names that is for sure going to start on Saturday, and I think they can wreak havoc with any defense across this planet, footballing wise. But I think it's interesting here because I think it's almost a clash of philosophies as well. These are two clubs, they have nothing to lose. PSG comes from winning it back last year. Arsenal has won the first league title in 22 years. Both clubs are doing great. So it's about the philosophy, and here we can look at defensive-wise, because I think some players that would fit in a joint 11, if you combine the best players of these two, is players from the Arsenal defense and the goalie Raya. So I think Raya, we have Saliba, we have Gabriel, as well as I would say Calafiori. Those in the defense and the goalkeeper is better than the counterparts at PSG. But I think apart from that, I have a hard time seeing many Arsenal players. Especially up front, to your point, Jeff. So it's gonna be super interesting seeing this star quality players from PSG up front, Doué, Dembélé, Kvaratskhelia against Saliba and Gabriel mainly. Also, I have to mention Saka versus Nuno Mendes. Nuno Mendes, the best left back in the world, versus a fantastic winger. Even though his season has not been that good, but they have a title now, and he's star boy. He's him and Esse, I would expect to see them on the pitch because it's two academy products. That is a special thing for Arsenal as well. But it's going to be a tough one, I think. But one question I would say, who would you put in the goal and the two central defenders for PSG? Who should Luis Enrique pick?
I think he's going to continue on what players that have brought them to this final. So for me, it's easy. It's Safonov and it's Pacho and Marquinhos, and I can agree that individually and perhaps also collectively, Saliba and Gabriel are better players than both Pacho and Marquinhos. But against both Liverpool in the quarterfinals and also the semifinals against Bayern Munich, I saw great leadership from both Pacho and Marquinhos. Both are very good to reading the game, fast-paced. Last-minute tackles that blocked both Liverpool and Bayern Munich to score goals. So perhaps then more advantage for Gabriel Saliba in corners, set pieces, those kind of situations, because they have the physique and also the length. But I think, and they played these games before as well. I don't think you should be taking that for granted, that even though Arsenal's won the league now, neither of them has played a Champions League final before. PSG has, they did it last year. Advantage there as well, because the nerves is going to be there for all players, but might not be that many nerves compared to Arsenal. And
there is a point there. I would just like to mention the Joker, though, Kai Havertz. He has already scored a winner in a Champions League final, be it the pandemic final for Chelsea versus Manchester City. And I think that match, if I don't remember, it was actually quite unfair with Rüdiger injuring Kevin De Bruyne early. Which had a great impact on that match, and I think Rüdiger should have been sent off. But still, I agree that the routine in PSG as a squad, as a team, as players, they have won this. And in recent memory, against a good Inter side, they absolutely demolished them. Do you think... Okay, I need to hear your thoughts now. If you're going to give me a specific result, how will it end on Saturday? Jeff?
I'll be modest in Arsenal's favor, or with the scoreline. So I'll say 2-1 PSG.
I would actually like to say the same. I'm thinking 2-1 to PSG. As we've spoken about, they have a very strong defense in Arsenal. So I don't know if we'll see too many goals, but I mean, we've seen PSG score tons of goals for some games, and this could be a performance like that too. But no, I don't know. I'm thinking 2-1 here as well.
I'm gonna then stick my chin out, and I'm gonna say 2-1 to Arsenal. And I can mention Kai Havertz will score the winner, the 2-1 goal. And that will be his legacy as a professional football player, scoring the decisive winners in Champions League finals. Because he's not always a starter in Arsenal, but he's going to do it. And the goal before that is going to be a set piece by Saliba, heading the ball past Marquinhos, who is a bit short in the arms there to catch up. But I also want to just put some weight behind my prediction here, because for those of you who remember, I actually nailed it 100% for the Coupe de France. The result prediction 3-1 to Lens, and that's exactly what we saw. Not prono, no points, so I won't get the McDonald's. That's you, Dennis. The technically responsible one.
But also to counter that is that Charlie have never in the history of Le Foot have 2 correct predictions in a row. So there's a lot of things talking against this prediction.
Yeah, that is right.
That is it for this week. Follow us on socials, subscribe, and give us a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. And remember to tell a football-loving friend. For queries, you're always welcome to reach out at lefootpodcast@gmail.com. Have a great week and see you next Monday. Au revoir.